You're watching the Vivo V21e 5G disassembly. If you need any tools, there are links in the description. First, the SIM tray needs to be removed. Now we need to apply heat to the back plate using a hairdryer or a heat gun so we can loosen up the adhesive underneath, and then we're going to use a plastic pry tool to pry the back plate off. Here's a look at the plastic back plate. There are 20 Phillips screws which need to be removed. Once all the screws are removed, we're going to take our plastic pry tool and place it in between the back housing and the frame of the screen, and we're going to run it along the edges and pop off the catches. Now we can lift up and remove the back housing. The back housing itself is plastic as well. There are two antenna flex cables on either side of this back housing. On the other side, we can see another antenna flex cable over here on the bottom. The top cover can now be removed. On this top cover, there's a large graphene film over here, which helps transfer heat. Here's a look at the other side. Now before we continue, the battery cable needs to be disconnected. Once the battery cable is disconnected, we can go ahead and disconnect the rest of the cables. There's a protective tape covering this flex cable over here. We have to peel that off before we disconnect it. There are two wire cables over here in the corner which need to be popped off. There's another protective tape over here covering the connector for the front facing camera, which first needs to be peeled off before we can disconnect and remove that. There are two standoff screws holding the motherboard down. There is one located right here and one over here. I'll put a link in the description for the standoff screwdriver. Once those screws are removed, we can lift up and remove the main board. On this side of the board, the LED flash is located right over here, and the two camera connectors are located over here. Those connectors can be disconnected by just popping them off. There is also a protective tape over here covering this connector, so first you would have to peel this tape off before disconnecting it. There's a secondary microphone located over here on the top, and a headphone jack over here. There are also rubber gaskets covering these connectors, and a copper tape over here on the shield. On the other side, we can see the proximity sensor located over here, and more copper tape over here on top of these shields, and some thermal paste over here. Once the copper tape is peeled back, we can see more thermal paste on top of the processor. It's time to remove the speaker assembly. There's more graphene film over here on top of the speaker assembly, and some which goes over the battery. There is yet another protective sticker over here covering these connectors, which first needs to be peeled off. Now the cables can be disconnected. This cable over here is for the fingerprint reader. This is the screen cable. Now the wire cable or coaxial cable needs to be popped off. Before the subboard on the bottom can be removed, the battery has to be removed first, since there's a coaxial cable attached underneath the subboard over here, and the cables run along the frame over here. The battery is covering the cables, so we can't gain access to them until we remove the battery first. In order to remove the battery, there's a provided pull tab over here to help us pry the battery off. Here's a better look at the battery. Now we can remove these coaxial cables. And then we can lift up and remove this subboard. But be careful because the screen cable is running over here through this opening or slit in the subboard. You don't want to tear the screen cable. On this subboard, the charger port is located right over here. There's a liquid damage indicator sticker over here, which is this white sticker. Your main microphone is located over here, and there are rubber gaskets around all the connectors. On the other side, you can see this coaxial cable connected over here underneath. The SIM card reader is located over here, and again you can see the charger port over here with the rubber gasket around it. If you had to replace your screen, you would have to take the back plate off, remove all the screws and remove the back housing, and then you disconnect the battery cable, remove the speaker assembly, and then remove the battery itself, and then you'd be able to lift up and remove your subboard on bottom, giving you access to the screen cable. And then at that point, you'd heat up the front of the phone where the screen is, so you can loosen up the adhesive underneath. You pry your old screen off, apply new adhesive, reapply your new screen, and just reassemble the phone. The fingerprint reader over here is held down with adhesive, so if you want to pry that off, you could just apply some heat and gently pry it off. These two flex cables over here connect the main board to the subboard on bottom. The vibrator motor is located over here, and the earpiece speaker is over here on top. Both are held down with adhesive. The flex cable for your power button and volume keys is located right over here. There are also red gaskets with mesh filters on the speaker openings and microphone openings. Once the protective green tape is peeled back, we can see the copper heat pipe underneath, which is in between the mid-frame, screen, and runs along over here underneath the motherboard. For the repairability score on this phone, I give it a 5 out of 10. There are a few different size screws which need to be removed, which make the disassembly process a little more difficult, on top of the fact that numerous components have to be removed in order to gain access to removing the screen. One good thing though is the battery does have a pull tab to help you pry it off, so it makes it much easier to pry the battery off compared to some phones. Now I'm going to put the phone back together. Once all the screws are back in place, apply new adhesive and reapply the back plate. Flip over the phone, power it on, and you're done. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell so you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. Thanks again for watching guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.